Good, thank you. Yeah, so before understanding today's concepts, just go ahead recollecting that what we were understanding yesterday, and then we look into that today's subject. Yeah, yesterday one of the important concepts that's about scaling groups, as we were understanding the vertical scaling, horizontal scaling with the high availability. So these are all some important features of the cloud. But those features, how do we apply to the EC2 instances? That's we were understanding yesterday, the demonstration. That is with the horizontal scaling and with the high availability, that is launching the instances in multi-availability zone. And then mapping with the load balancer, the target group, and in the target group, managing that dynamically launching that instances using the template. Yeah, scale out, scale in policies defining that. So what are the different policies that are available from the auto scaling group? Yes, those policies. Yeah, they're all the concepts that we were understanding. And important some attributes, if you remember about it, for auto scaling group. Yes, we have the concept of the minimum size, desired capacity, and the maximum size. So if we define that the minimum, maximum, and the desired, yes, while launching the auto scaling group, it uses the desired. And on the basis of the current policies which you have applied, the load-based rules which we have applied, the rule-based, it is going to set to that either minimum or it is going to do that the scale out. Yeah, so there are the three important attributes to define that the dynamically, the managing that the instances. But this auto scaling group is required to attach with the load balancer. So the during the scale in, scale out, the instances are removing or instances are launching that should be registered with load balancer. Yeah, load balancer attachment, that is another one more important configuration for the auto scaling group. And the template is one more important input, is template configuration. And minimum size, maximum size, and initial capacity. And a networks configuration with the subnets, that is 1A, 1B, 1C, that's like subnets defining. And a load balancer configuration and the scaling policies applying that. Yeah, these are all some important attributes that we are observing whenever we were creating auto scaling group. And we were using the CloudWatch alarm also to perform that scale in, scale out, that is adding instances or removing that instances. So the background alarm is required to keep on monitoring or analyzing that the metrics of the current auto scaling group instances, average CPU utilization or average network in or network out or number of requests on the ELB per instance. These are all some important the metrics that we can use it to define the auto scaling group. Yeah, so this was the thing that we are trying to understand it, the auto scaling group. Are you clear about that? Any queries, questions, please let me know before moving to the that is the DNS settings. Another interesting and important concept, the complete application to manage it on the cloud. Yeah, DNS to the load balancer and load balancer to the target group which contains about auto scaling group instances. And these instances, the mapping to the backend databases, that is RDS. Next we'll come back, RDS and those. Yeah, so are you clear about this auto scaling group? And what are the different policies? Let me conclude that's also. Default target tracking policy. That means you just define the metric, then either adding or removing that is dynamically is going to decide by the AG policy. But if you like to control explicitly scale out scaling on the basis of the metrics, As CloudWatch alarm, we need to create it, and using that alarm, we can define that simple scaling policy, or another one which we have this is that is step-based routing policies. Step-based is more advanced. You can define that range of metrics also. If the particular range is in that the current metric, then how many instances that you want to manage that. Yeah, those three policies: target tracking policy, simple policy, and a step-based routing policies. And finally, one more concept also important, which we are observing, that rolling update. So without having any the shutting down of the machine, and if you would like to change that the machine's configuration, how do we refresh the instances using the latest template in the auto scaling group? That is also one important concept which you are understanding. Yeah, so that was topic yesterday. So let's conclude it. Any queries, questions, please let me know. And if you are good with that, type the clear, then we'll go ahead to this next concept. Yeah, so good, clear. What about others? Yeah, the query is just ping that query, or otherwise confirm that clear, then we'll move to the next one. Be active. So quickly, if you do that, then I'll move to the next quickly. Okay, I see this the good response. Good, thank you. So let's move to this next concept. That's about load balancers. Actually, why I logged in late is the GoDaddy, I'm not able to access it. That is some issue I'm having. So that's the point. Anyway, let's. Yeah, next concept is the understanding about DNS services. But what we were understanding so far, if you just observe that, we know about it, the EC2 instances. So EC2 instance types or EC2 instance, what are the properties that is required with the user data management point of view, and type of instance, AMI point of view, and as well as we were understanding volumes, and as well as snapshots mechanism. Yeah, that is the first we were understanding on EC2 level. But to host the services, one EC2 is not enough. So we need to have the two or more EC2 instances and two or more availability zones. And all these EC2 instances should be grouped. That is a target group. And these instances managed with the auto scaling group dynamically on the base of the load, either adding instances or removing that instances. And these instances registering with the load balancer. So far, this concept which we are understanding, that the load balancer with backend mapping to the target group, in the target group managing the instances dynamically with auto scaling group, and with the high availability, that is multi availability job. So far only these things, right? Simple. These two layers which we understand. But next point is this load balancer, we don't direct the load balancer DNS name, whatever it was showing, that was something, some random name is generating, but we cannot use it. That's to distribute to the users who are going to use it, that the application or accessing that application. So what we need to do, that is for this load balance URL, not only load balance URL, if you have that even IP address or IPv4 or IPv6 address also, we can manage it through the DNS service. But what is a managed DNS service that is available from AWS? Now, do I need to go for that other providers for the DNSs? So if it is on-premises, load balancer is from the different provider, that is big IPs or Cisco's team. And the server's point of view, hardware devices, a separate another vendor. And operating system point of view, another vendor. So different vendors, like the which you need to have it, like the support activities point of view, that's a big challenge. But now, if you consider about the cloud, everything that is from the same vendor, right? So now the support activities, and like if you have any the production related to some challenging job, yes, you can just take the support from the AWS team. They will help you to in all the layers which are required for that application. And even the database also, yes, they are given that the service on it. Now you don't need to have it like a the Oracle team or PostgreSQL team, some other community to communicate with that, getting the support on it. Yeah, it has been simplified managing the infras. The challenges have been reduced with the cloud approaches. Yeah, so in this now, the next another requirement for about our application is, so my application is hosted, okay, riseandtechnologies.com is application which is hosted on the EC2 instances. And I have launched two instances in the two availability zones, and I have configured the load balancer. Yes, good. But this load balancer URL, I should not give it to you, right? So what is the next service which we can take it to manage the DNS is, yes, the Route 53 is one more service from AWS team. Yes, let's look into that. What is this Route 53 and how do we use this Route 53? And how do we can manage it about it? Mapping about, this is just mapping. DNS is mapping. Suppose if suppose if I have this like long names. So instead of using that like a long names, what do we do? That we use it alias names, right? The same thing here. You'll be having that like some kind of yes IP addresses or some kind of like dynamic names. But those names remembering and IP address remembering is not at all possible. What do we do? That we just define that alias name for it, where we can easily remember it. Yeah, so this is just mapping about front-end user. Yes, that's the naming system to that, the backend, the load balancer URLs or IP addresses or IP address. Again, we have the dual stacks, IPv4 or IPv6. So is it that IPv4 address or is it IPv6 address or is it another DNS name? So you need to just map it that. That is Route 53 service. Let's look into the Route 53. Suppose I have hosted that application on the server, and which is having some IP address, that is something 32 some XYZ IP address. But I would like to give it to the user this server. Then directly if I give that this IP address to the user, he cannot remember it, right? So from his browser, he would like to access every day. Then he has to manage it on Notepad. In the Notepad, he has to save it all these IP addresses. So what we can do? So this IP address, we can map it with the domain. So I can take it to one domain which is available in the DNS server. That is example like yes, myapp.mydomain.com, some xyz.com. What are the domain that is required? I can check it the availability of the domain, and I can take this domain. We need to buy it, the domain. And once this domain is available, what I can do is for my server, to give it to the user. So I can take this Route 53, the service from AWS point of view, and I can map it for this domain about this server in this Route 53. Then whenever the user requests for that, the domain name, what exactly is going to happen, that is the Route 53 service is going to check it. Okay, for this domain, what is the server that is mapped? The mapping records will manage it here. Suppose riseandShineTechnologies.com. But whenever we hit it, backend that is mapped with another IP address. Yeah, that IP address will be shared to the client who is trying to access this domain. Suppose whenever we hit the google.com, google.com directly is not going to connect to the server. The first the google.com server will be submitted the request to the DNS service, and the DNS is going to checking that in the records for this google.com, what is that IP address or what is the load balancer it is mapped. That load balancer or IP address will be returned back to the client browser. Then through the TCP layer, using that IP address, it will be forwarded the request to the server, and server process the request and it gives a response back to the client. So user level, actually we see that this domain name, but backend on the network, what's going to happen that this is the IP address which is going to use it that. But that IP address for this domain where it is configured, that is in DNS service. So whenever we are hitting the URL from the browser, directly about our request is not submitting to the server. So first it submit the request to the DNS service, and DNS service is verifying that for that domain, the mapping records, and the mapping records on the base of that which IP address is mapped, that IP address will be returned back to the client. Then from the client networks like TCP layer is going to use it to TCP or UDP protocols, and it connects to the server, and server receives the request and it processes the request on the basis of interacting with the databases or completing the transaction. The transaction data which will be written in the format of the response to the browser. So this is the behind scenario. The whenever we hit the URL, what exactly is happening there? What's going to happen there? I hope so. In the high level architecture also we had this point, if you remember it initially.
Sir, one small doubt, sir. Here the server cannot map the concerned DNS to the IP. Why it is going back to the route 53 and again coming back and getting the IP and it's being redirected to the server, sir? Is it being followed in all the applications or it is confined to a cloud application, sir?
It is a concept of that all the applications. It is not just only for the cloud. Suppose google.com, if we hit it that google.com, if I just whenever I'm hitting about it, google.com is not going to forward it. So google.com, that domain record will be verified in the DNS service. DNS service that could be Route 53, and we have those different providers. GoDaddy is providing that, and yeah, so like Azure team, they are providing about the DNS. So wherever it is configured that domain name, so it is going to checking about it for that domain, the IP address, and the IP address will be written to the client the first time, and then the request will be submitted to the server over the network through the routers. So this is the generic concept in all the cases.
Yeah, yes, sir. And one more doubt: is there any capacity issue for this Road 53? Suppose as you know that in web applications we may have multiple thousands of requests
Yes.
which need to be processed.
Yes, that is this service provider is going to take care of that. The load, whatever it is coming, that the
That's
load.
a different scenario.
Yeah, that is a different scenario. That is we don't have the control. So the requests which are coming, that is managed by this the service provider. Is it clear? So here, if you
Yes,
use
yes.
it, the Route 53 service, AWS team is going to take care of that. Suppose if you are going to take it that the service
If it
from,
is, sir,
yeah,
if it is a case of Azure, there also we have a Route 53 or
yes,
anything
yes,
else.
yes, we have that. In the Azure also, Traffic Manager is available. That's a service. And even if you go
Okay.
to the Google Cloud, they have that.
Here, instead of Route 53, there we have a traffic manager for Azure.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Even before this, the cloud, yes, it was there, this DNS service concept, but a different third-party providers, they are providing that. That is GoDaddy is the best example now in the current market. Like there's so many, Hostinger is another provider. So many providers are providing about it, web hosting mechanisms. But we are, as a cloud, we are going to talk at the AWS. Yes, the AWS, how it is managing about it, the Route 53. That is, we are going to talk at that. Yeah, so this is generic concept, the which we have, the DNS mapping. And then if you go to that Route 53, especially AWS point of view, yeah, this is the managed DNS, that is domain name system. So who is managing that? AWS team. Whatever the load it is coming, they are going to manage that. Not only just one server, multiple servers, they are managing that. The name servers, the records they provide to us for about our domain. And users, whenever they don't use it only one server. The background, they are managing about it, all the requests and the records mapping. So the name server records they provide it. That means they are managing that multiple uh, the load management, the services. Anyway, that is managed by the DNS provider. That is a Route 53. Here we are going to use that is a service from AWS team. So DNS is a collection of rules and records which are helping clients to understand how to reach a server through URL. Yes, as we're talking about it. So these the DNS concept is helping about it on the basis of the rules and the records which have been defined. So clients can understand how to reach a server through URL. Yeah, in AWS, whenever we are working with Route 53, some important common records which we need to remember that URL to IPv4 mapping, IPv4 addresses, how do we map it? That is, we say that a type of record. And URL to IPv6, that means backend I may have that IPv6 address and I need to create one URL and mapping to that. Then what is the type of the record I can use it from the Route 53 is 4As, that is AAA. So this is the type of the record you can create it, mapping the front end URL, some example.com to, if I may have the backend IPv6. Or if I may have that IPv4 address, the server IP address, then what is the type of the record we need to create it in the Route 53 is a type of record. And another one which we have this is, suppose whenever we hit that example.com, it has to be routed to that something riseandshine-technologies.com. That means I have the front end URL and a back end URL. This URL, if you hit it, it has to be redirected to the back end another URL. If you have these kind of the mappings, then what is the type of the record we need to create it in the Route 53 is CNAME type of records. That is, we say that canonical name. And another type of the record, what do we have this is, suppose I have that example.com, but this example.com that I need to map into the backend AWS resource. AWS resource, like yesterday, load balancer is one kind of the resource. So I need to map it AWS resource. Then what is the type of the record we will create it is recommended is Alias, the URL mapping to AWS resource, URL mapping to IPv4 address, URL mapping to IPv6 address, or URL to another URL, or URL to AWS resource. Then we use it that these types of the records. But how to use it? Yes, we'll come back how to create it. But before going to talking about the Route 53, these are all the important the record sets which we need to understand it. Yeah, so let's go ahead and refer that where do we have this Route 53 and how it is providing. Let's look into that option. So if I go to the browser, do you see the screen, everyone? The browser.
Yeah, GoDaddy itself down.
Yeah, that's I was trying that before joining this class, but the GoDaddy is not down. I mean, you can from my browser it is blocked. So I'm not sure that's why they have blocked my IP address. If I was just verifying that why it is blocked suddenly today morning. You can try it in your system.
Can we try?
GoDaddy is it working?
Yes.
Yeah, so only in my system, so it is blocked. I was just verifying the Google, and they're saying about it about your IP address is blocked, and it will be that restored after some time. So that's why I was looking that issue, and I joined the
Yeah,
late.
it's working. GoDaddy website is working.
Yeah,
Any
actually it
private
is working.
browser you tried? Private browser?
Yeah, other browsers also I tried it. Google Chrome I tried it. In the Cognito window also I tried it.
Okay.
All the options, but my that's like my IP address is blocked. Even I changed the network also, but it is not accepting. Okay, anyway, I'll come back to that. But let's go ahead. Meanwhile, AWS Management Console and how do you work with it? Yeah, once if you log into that AWS Management Console and where you can find it, let me log in. Actually, first I was surprising that GoDaddy was down. But after I came to know that okay, that is my issue from my the laptop. I thought it to show that the domain in the GoDaddy. Anyway, I'll come back. So if it is not working today, I will raise the request to them and I'll ask this unblocking my API. Okay. So what is the service we are talking that says Route 53? Yeah. So this is the dashboard of the Route 53. So first of all, I mean, before going to understand this Route 53, what all the options are available is the Route 53. If you would like to configure it first, or if you would like to use that service, first of all, we need to have the domain. Like example, riseandshine.technologies.com or google.com or facebook.com. Or if you're planning to host about your application, first you need to have the domain name for it. Can I get it the domain names from the AWS team itself? Yes. So first you can register the domains from the AWS team itself. Yes, you can request that. So taking the domains like actually the GoDaddy is a third party one, but AWS team itself, they are providing about it. If you would like to take the new domain, then you can request from the AWS team itself. Or if I'm already having this domain in GoDaddy or some third party one, then I can transfer the domain to this AWS Route 53 also. Either you can transfer the domain existing domains if you have this in the third party one, or you can register the new domain as well. Yeah, register the domain. Yes, check the availability for a domain. Suppose I'm looking about it, the Venkat RNS tech. Yes, the whatever the domain you like to prefer it. Yes, so you can search that particular domain. Yes, that's the exact match is available. So no one has been taken as this domain. But if I search for the transaction-technologies.com, that is already acquired, or google.com, that is already taken. So whenever you are first that's application, if you're planning to post it, the domain is required. So taking the domain, but the taking the domain, you can take it from the third-party vendors also. The best another vendor, GoDaddy. They give that with the cost point of view, the less cost also. Compare with that. Here you see this like they are giving that even no one will use it, this right, this domain name, but they are charging that even that $13 USD dollars for this. This is per year. I need to pay that. But if I go to the GoDaddy, on the base of this type of the domain which you are planning to take it, maybe the cost that is the first year, yes, maybe 300, 400 itself we can get it. And some suggested other domains also on the base of the top level domain. If you're looking about the top level domain .com, that is a somewhat high cost. But if I use it the top level domain .net or .info or .in or a .edu education related, then those domains cost which will be the less compared with that .com. Yeah, you can refer that. That's a domain. The which one do you want that? And you can search
But
it and
is
you
there
can find.
any way that we can buy free domain? Any website?
Yeah, that is also, I'll come back to that. But yeah, if you go for that, it's like free domain hosting, free domain registration. Okay, let's talk it this way. Freenom is one of the site which you can find it. Yes, the freenom.com. So this is they are offering that some free domains, but don't try to use the .com and something. So if you'd like to work with that, this the demonstration. So go ahead and create an account with about your Gmail. So begin it and register to that. Then go for searching the domains. Or first check the domains, no issues. And then whenever you are planning to take it, then you need to sign up that with about your Gmail ID. Suppose if I try to search it here, I mean, this is another provider who is providing that domain service, DNS service. Like that GoDaddy, AWS team, they are providing that. Azure, they are providing. Google team, they are providing. But one time, if you take it this domain from one vendor, this domain you cannot take it. This is globally managing. The domain names are managing at a global, but different providers are available. But final database is only one database for all the domains, right?
So who manage that, sir? Any government organization or any
That is
company that
internet
organizes?
service providers. I'm not sure exactly. Actually, we can say
Okay.
ISP, internet service providers. They are
Service
managing.
providers.
Like all these networking mechanism and networking rules and who is designing that. That team they are managing. You can just do R&D. I didn't go through that much level on it. Yeah, so you can check about availability of this domain, the which you are looking about it in the Freenom also. Or the same thing I'm doing that in AWS Route 53 also. Or if I'm able to access the GoDaddy, but it is blocking for me, I'm not sure. Let me try it one more time. Today only surprised to see this message. Yeah, so GoDaddy is not working for me. Otherwise, you can check it in the GoDaddy also. Actually, residentialtechnologies.com, that's I have taken in GoDaddy. Oh, it's not responding. Not responding. There is no action on this button. Yeah, you can check it with the free now. That like to get into that the domain, but don't try to use the .com and .net, those kind of some temporary domains like this. You will get it. .tv, how do we have? But .tv, see, that's 32 US dollars. This is a more cost. Why they have given, I'm not sure. This is the TV domain, and Ninja is another. So like this, find it something different for practice purpose. Okay, they have. I mean, it is responded good. Yeah, like this you can see .tk, .ml, .ga, .cf, GQ, but they are showing this not available. Yes, you can find it some the random or some give that some the random name and check that availability. If it is available, then sign up to that and take that the domain. But finally, the load balancer you can configure it. So even wherever you have the domain, doesn't matter that you have this. You have taken the domain in GoDaddy. You have taken the domain in the FreeNAME. You have taken the domain in the AWS itself. Finally, load balancer to map it, we can configure it. But how do you configure that mapping is important. That's I'll come back. If the GoDaddy is working, then I can give the demonstration of it. That's names of details and all that. But I'm not sure, so it is not working. That's I was wondering. Okay, so let me continue talking on this, and I'll give that demonstration and I'll come back to that. Yeah, first you need to register the domain. The domain where you have taken, that is about your choice. But the free nom, try it. And if you find it any free domains, you are lucky. Take it and try to practice it. But I'm not sure are you going to get it or not. But try it, the free nom. But if you are not getting that, then go to the GoDaddy. Try to find it something 400, 500 rupees, some domain with about your name. If you are interested with that, yes, you can search it on the basis of about your preferable name and with some instead of using the .com, some like .net or .in. That's kind of top level domain. Go ahead with that and try to use that. Yeah, once if you register the domain, but while registering the domain, it is going to ask you all the details about your mailing address and about your, yeah, suppose if I take this domain, yeah, so this exact match, and if I select this, and it is asking us to proceed to checkout, that means it will be added to my billing account and proceed to checkout. And yes, this is 1 year subscription, 2 years. So it is giving that multiple options, and you can go ahead choosing that option next. And yes, now it is asking that the information. So contact type, is it person purpose or the company purpose? Let's go ahead the person in our context, and first name, last name, email addresses, and phone number, address details. So all these details you need to enter it, and after entering the details, if they will verify it, and after verifying that, they allocate the domain to you. So once you register the domain, then that is going to take it some time to get approval. Then during the time, you can see that what are the domains you have requested. Yeah, so just I was adding to the cart, right, account upon expiration, and yes, I need to verify this all these details. That's why it is showing about it failed. Fine, I don't want that. I was doing that the before also, and today's it is not tracked anyway, that record. Fine. Yeah, so you can register the domain, and once that is registered, then it takes some time. Then you can verify that that is approved or not. So if it is approved, then you need to configure the rules, right? Rules and records. Then what is the next section is the hosted zone section. So once that domain is available, whether that is in GoDaddy or CNAME or wherever it is, AWS or Azure, wherever you are going to take the domain, you can take it. So once the domain has been registered, but if you would like to configure that domain with about our AWS resources or AWS services, then where do we configure that and what is the section? Hosted zones is the section. Suppose here the domain is already, you have taken here and it is approved. Then automatically with that domain, you can see that in the hosted zone section. You don't need to create a hosted zone separately. If you have taken that or if you have registered the domain within the AWS team itself, then once the domain is approved, then automatically record will be created in the hosted zone section with that domain. But if you have taken that the domain from the GoDaddy or a CNAME somewhere, then what do we need to do that with the domain? We need to create a hosted zone because my domain is outside. So if the domain is either in GoDaddy or CNAME somewhere, if you bought it the domain, but if you would like to configure this in the Route 53, then you need to create a hosted zone with the domain name. Exact domain name you need to give it, whatever you have in the GoDaddy or somewhere. Then description of it, and the type should be public. Yes, we are going to give the domain name is public, right, to the public team. And they should, the private will come back later in the cluster sections, the internet cluster machines you are going to manage it, but all the cluster machines should use the DNS service. Then you can configure the private hosted zone, that is internal networking level. If you need that any DNS name, then the private hosted zone will use it. But public one, yes, this is for the end user's point of view, the domain who can access it. That's you can define the public hosted zone. Then create hosted zone. But actually, that is a problem which I'm having is GoDaddy is blocking me. That is otherwise I have this one domain for testing to demonstrate the demo to
So
demonstrate it.
you can launch any of the Windows VM and from there you can access it.
Okay, so yeah, that is also fine. Let me try it in that way. Good point.
So yeah, there is no authentication, anything that we have to give while registering it here. Host zones.
No, not required. Already account level
Okay.
you have logged in, right?
Okay. Example, you were discussing in GoDaddy, I registered rns.com or something.
Yeah.
So I have that link now. Now can I link I have the link. I just to crack it or to hack it, I just give my server name. So automatically the data will route it to my server.
You should have that in the GoDaddy my credentials, right?
Okay. So yeah, that's what I asking. Any authentication it should be added in the
Yeah,
host zone.
definitely. The naming server records you need to add it in the GoDaddy.
Okay.
Otherwise it doesn't route it.
Mm.
So let me show that.
Mm.
Let me try to launch that on Windows system. instance type T2 micro, so it takes time. So let me change it this one to T2 small. Key pair, let me create new key pair. .25. Network settings. Yeah, allow RDP traffic. Okay, let me create new security group. And 30 GB is providing. That's fine. So let's launch the instance. Yeah, connect using RDP client. So download the remote desktop file and username is this one. So okay. So let's launch this Windows RDP. Or we can use a mobile extreme also to connect to that Windows with RDP protocol. But passwords, to get it, what we need to do is just click on the get password and decrypt it. Please in this, please wait at least 4 minutes. Okay, still it is launching that. But still it is not available. We need to wait some more time. Actually, half minute work. The GoDaddy works. Okay, so 2x2 checks passed. So let's try to connect it now. Yeah, we are good. So upload the private key file. Just downloaded Windows key. Yes, let's get the password. Yes, copy this password and let's go back to the system and enter. Do you see the Windows screen?
Yes.
The remote desktop also. Is it
Yep,
showing
yep.
that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this one. So let's go for the GoDaddy. So this from the network itself, it is blocked. I'm not sure.
Maybe your internet provider would have been
Yes,
blocked.
at router level, it is blocked.
Maybe
Okay,
you can
so
just change your network and check. But even though, but server, it should
server should
be
be in
free.
the different network. That's why. So I tried it before all these network changes and all that. Even mobile hotspot, I used it, disabling that Wi-Fi router, but it was not working. Anyway, I'll try to give this demonstration tomorrow. I'll check it that this issue fixing, and we'll see the demonstration tomorrow. That is GoDaddy. If you have this domain, then how do we map it in the AWS Route 53? So as simple as this, we need to create a hosted zone with the same domain name, and then we need to define the routing. But how do we map it from Route 53 to external DNS provider? So that's the one thing. Name server records, we need to take it once here record has been hosted zone has been created. Here it is going to generate one NS records. These NS records we need to take it and we need to define in the GoDaddy domain section. That means any request which is coming to the GoDaddy using the name servers, it will be routed to the Route 53 service. That's mapping point of view. You need to have the credentials. Directly you cannot take it my domain and mapping to a particular server. You cannot do that. So that name server details, if you have, you can do that. That is important. You got the point? You are asking this point, right?
Sir, yes, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll show this demonstration tomorrow. I'll check it that issue GoDaddy, or otherwise I will raise the request why it is blocked, and let me take the support from them. Or otherwise, then if it is not working, then I'll try to create in the one registered domain here, and we'll see the. I have this already the domain. Now, if I'm going to register once again, it takes some time for the registration and as well as money also additional effort. But instead of doing that, I have already domain in GoDaddy, but it is not able to access. Otherwise, I'll take it other systems, or maybe I'll need to check it all the possible cases. Even other system also is not working here also. Not sure. So the where it is exactly blocking. I need to take the support from them. I'll check it that. Yeah, any queries, questions? Have got the point of DNS service?
Yes, sir.
But demonstration will see this mapping. That means these records we need to create it. So how to map it URL to IPv4 or URL to IPv6? And all the demonstration we have this with the different routing policies also. So all these routing policies are going to helping that to manage it client side load balancer. So Route 53 we are configuring is nothing but it is like as a client side load balancer. That means, yeah, so this section if I'm the client and if I'm accessing that domain and in the Route 53 on the basis of my request and the records which have been defined, it is going to checking that. Suppose as we are understanding region level failures, how do we handle that? Availability zone data center failures, how do we handle that is? Yes, load balancer is going to take care of that. If the instances are down here in this availability zone, it is going to route to that another availability zone instances. So this is data center level failures handling that with a load balancer in that region. But if the region itself is failed, then you need to have that one more region here, right? One more region with the same setup and one more load balancer with backend auto scaling group. A same kind of the replica of that the region which you need to have it in another one. Okay, load balancers you have created and you are managing about EBS snapshots and using that template mechanism, you are handling that the EC2 instances and backend database also. That is also EBS snapshots concept, synchronizing the data. But I have the two load balancers. So one will be as a primary, second one will be as a standby or secondary, we can say that. In case this load balancer is down, then the load balancer URL, the client it has to be shared, the second load balancer URL it has to share it, right? In case this is not reachable, this health is not okay, then it has to share it the second, the load balancer URL to the client. Then from the client browser, it will be access this load balancer and it will be routed to the EC instances. So how do we handle that? Where do we define it? The primary, secondary concepts that is in the Route 53 in that domain level, we can configure it. If you configure the domain, so before sharing that, as we are talking about it, Route 53 is going to share the server details to the client, right? Yeah, before sharing that IP address to the client, now this Route 53, we can use it as a health checker or load balancer. This is the client side load balancer. If this load balancer is healthy, this load balancer URL will be shared by the Route 53 to the client. Or if this is not healthy, secondary whatever we have configured, the secondary IP, the load balancer URL will be shared to the client. Now that client request will be routed to the second load balancer. So in the Route 53, once hosted zone has been created, and while creating a records on the rules, we can define the policies. There are the different policies are available. Simple routing policy, failover routing policy, as we are talking about it, active and passive. One will be active. In case active one is not healthy, then it is going to use the second one, passive. Anyway, let me talk at this high level these points, but I have one video I will share it, which is clearly explained with the demonstration, all these policies, some important policies. Yeah, today I will share that video. The meanwhile, you can just refer it, but tomorrow I'll give it that Route 53 record sets with the hosted zone. But these policies, I give that one URL, which has been clearly explained with all the different cases. So simple routing policy, that is just one-to-one mapping. But I have the failure cases, like one will be active, second one will be passive. That means one region will be active. In case the region is not reachable, then at second region it has to use it. How do you handle that? Load balancer doesn't support it. The load balancer is region scope. Within the region also the VPC scope. But I have this like active passive mechanism. Then how I can handle that? If the active one is down, it has to be identified automatically passive one. Passive one, the user has to, the user request has to be routed to that. Then in the Route 53, in that domain level, we can configure it, the policy using this policy, primary load balancer and secondary load balancer. Then automatically, the Route 53, once request is received, if the primary is not reachable, then it is going to use the secondary one. Next one is geolocation routing policy. Suppose I have the application from the US region people accessing that, and as well as Australia region people and India region people accessing that. Suppose Netflix, best example. Netflix actually hosted in the US regions. But whenever we are asking about it, it has to be managed. Instead of having the latency issues, maybe they have set up, let's assume that in the US region, one data center, and in Australia, they are getting the more clients, and they have set up this in the Australia region, and they have set up this in India region. So India people who are asking about it, then it has to be routed to the India region. And US people who are asking about it, it has to be routed to the US region data center. So the client from which location he is asking that, it has to be identified. On the base of the location, it has to be shared the load balancer URL to the client. Or backend resource URL, it has to be shared to the client. Suppose if I'm accessing this from the India region, then India region related the load balancer URL has to be written back to my browser, and from my system it will be using and connecting to the India data center. So if you have that kind of the requirement, that means the location based users and mapping to the backend resources, then use the geolocation routing policy whenever you want to route the traffic based on the location of about your users. Yeah, if you talk it all these things, some important, okay, let me show that. Yeah, so simple routing policy is, so user whenever he is accessing Route 53, either this server or this server, whatever it is available, it is going to route it that. This is a simple one. But as we're talking that failover, I didn't mention this diagram. Okay. Second one is geolocation. So what the geolocation routing policy? Suppose one user is accessing this, we have the data centers in AP South 1, and another one is in the London. So Mumbai user who is asking about it, so it has to be routed to that Mumbai data center. And the London people who are asking about it, it has to be to that the London data center. Then how it can be managed? This is the configuration. Route 53 in that domain level, we will map it. We will use it this policy, geolocation based routing policy, and which geolocation and which URL mapping. Load balancer, if you have load balancer mapping, or if you have the server mapping, that is IPv4 address or IPv6 address, or load balancer, yes, you can map into that. So location define it and map the resources. Then this one is working like as a load balancer, as we are talking that. Whenever it is received the request, it is going to check it. Okay, from which location you are accessing? Mumbai. Okay, route it to the Mumbai region. This URL will be shared to the user, and user request will be routed to the server. And the latency-based routing policy, especially like a Netflix kind of the scenario. If you just take it, suppose Netflix they have posted in the data center ES region. Suppose ES member, if he is trying to access it, for him it will be faster loading the video. But from the India region, if you're accessing that's or if you're watching the movie, but over the network, the data center which is in the US, definitely the latency will be having that, right? Latency issues will be having. Compare with that US region people and as well as India region people. So now, and as well as something like let's assume that Australia region people are also accessing that. So I cannot set up in all the regions, right? My application, okay, users are US, India, China, and Australia. I cannot set up in all the data centers. So that is a heavy cost for me. Then what I can do, I can choose some main data centers, most of the clients which are accessing that. I can choose those data centers and I can set up my application. Then what is the policy I can use it in the Route 53 is latency based routing policy. If I define it and map these two data centers, then any user is accessing that. Suppose Mumbai user is accessing that. Okay, Mumbai region is available and as well as US West, like in the London also is available, the data center. Now for him, so once the request is received, if I share this resource URL to him, then what is the time it is taking? And if I share this URL to him, what is the time it is taking? It is going to verify by the Route 53. And yes, which one is going to having the less latency? That resource URL will be shared to the client and client request will be routed to that data center. How the beauty is this, right? So there are Route 53, don't think that the only DNS mapping, just IP, the domain with IP address or domain with IPv6 address or a domain with the URL mapping. No. So we can define the policies also. Failover policies, that is a primary and a secondary. That is a region to region failure. How do you handle that? Yes, Route 53 is a solution. But data center failure, that is okay. Load balancer with multi-availability job. Disaster recoveries, there are the disaster recovery designing approaches. And clients are facing the latency issues. Then use latency-based routing policies. Or you have the particular location people, particular resources you need to map it. Yes, you can do that. And finally, if you need these 2 or 3 rules, yes, you can define in the multi-routing policies. Which one is that applicable? That is going to decide by the Route 53 dynamically. Then that resource URL will be shared to the URL and the user request will be routed to the particular server. And weight based also, this is one more important. Suppose as a cost point of view, in the Mumbai region, I have taken that setting up the servers and as well as Singapore. But Singapore high cost and I have taken less capacity of the systems. But in the Mumbai region, okay, the less cost and I have taken somewhat high capacity of the systems. These are all heterogeneous based, not homogeneous, heterogeneous based infras you have. Or not only that, you are doing that's updating the old application, migrating to the latest application. You have the two environments, one environment and this is the less in the current production environment and this is another one is a testing environment. Now you are updating that the current production something like a 10.x version is running. Now you are moving that 11.x version in the testing that is ready. Now instead of moving this application to the production, what we can do is this one you can mock it like as a production with all the production scenarios, you can test it. And once it is verified, now the requests which are coming slowly, what you can do, increase to this server rather than to this. Slowly decrease that the weight on this server. Okay, first everything that is 100% to this production, right? All the requests will be routed to the production. Now the testing environment is ready. So first what you can do is, so distribute to that 80% to this one and 20% to this one. That means 80% request will be routed to this one and 20% requested to that about our testing environment also, which we are going to planning to mark as a production without having any downtimes. So this one we can say that the blue-green deployment approach. Blue-green, one is production, second one is testing. And we don't go for that like a testing environment once it is ready, deploying this application to the production. Anyway, testing with the same production scenarios once it is ready. Why don't you route the request from the client to these servers? Yes, I mean the slope for it is forwarding the request to this server. Now at the Route 53 level, add these two backend resources and Route 53 level. First, okay, decrease the, I mean, that is 100% to 80% set to this and 20% set to this. That means some requests which will be routed to this server. And if you don't see this any client related issues after some time, verifying that from the client side also, then next increase that the 40% to this one and 60% to this one. Then we are good. Yes, increase slowly the slow to this servers and completely make this 0%. So those kind of blue-green deployment approaches, if you have the same hardware configuration about that, the production replicas, we have the two, and one is parallelly going on and second one is testing is going on, but testing once it is done, the testing environments itself, it has to be marked as a production. So if you have this kind of deployment strategy, what is the strategy? Blue-green deployment strategy. Those cases also you can use it. This Route 53 with a weight-based policy. First stop that to the testing 0 and complete to the production 100%. But once the testing and next release is ready, then increase that load 20% to this one 80%. Slowly decrease that load on that the previous production and completely make it 100% to that new servers, new version of this. But this should have the same replica. That is snapshots management or the data synchronization approaches which you can use it. Are you clear the advantage of these routing policies? Route 53, how that is going to help in that in the designing solutions. Disaster recoveries, client side, it is kind of the client side load balance, we can say that. Yeah, some important simple routing, weight based, latency based, primary and secondary, and geolocation based. Yeah. So I will share with that one video, and in that video, all these policies are clearly with the demonstration. Mumbai region, the one server, and as well as Singapore region, some other region has been taken, and geolocation, how do we define it? Primary and secondary, how do we define it? With clearly explained in that video. Refer that video. But tomorrow, the main section, yes, the record sets, I'll talk it. Yeah, that is with GoDaddy. If it is working, then I'll show that the demonstration, or otherwise I'll look into that other option. Maybe is it network level? Network also. I mean, we have taken other machine. It is not working. I need to check it the possible cases. Are you clear about these points? Are you good today? How got the importance of these policies? Route 53. Type that Route 53 or R53. Why they have given that 53 is a name? Can you give me that answer? Okay, route, that is okay, meaning of it, routing. Why they have given the 53, the name? Anyone? Normally we see that, okay, EC2. Why they have given that EC2? Elastic Compute Cloud. Two C's are there. ECC, instead of saying that, EC2 they have given. Like that S3. Simple Storage Service. Three S's are there. That's why they have given that S3. Remaining IAM, okay, these are all straightforward names. But Route 53, why they have given that number 53? So 53 is the port number of the DNS. So what is the default port of the DNS service is 53. Like how do we have the HTTP port 80, SSH port 22, SMTP port 25, FTP port that is 21. So how do we have that's the port number? DNS default port is 53. That's why they have given the name as Route 53. Good, right? Okay, so that's all from my side for today. So, okay, let me shut down the machine. Otherwise, I'll forget it that then that is going to honestly cost. Yeah, any other queries, questions, please let me know. Tomorrow, I'll talk it that the Route 53 demonstration. That is DNS settings. How do we define it? From the GoDaddy mapping to the Route 53. That is one thing. But remaining all the, even that's also you can find it in the videos if you go ahead. But policies you need to refer the clearly explained with all the use cases. But all that's repeating it takes a lot of time. But you can just refer the video. That is everything. It has been explained clearly. Yeah, failover situations. If you just talk it, disaster recovery management, regions level, or latencies. How do you manage it? And primary, secondaries. How do you configure it? If you have this kind of
Sir,
solution.
one small counter. So we have discussed that active passive kind of node where
Correct.
uh,
Correct.
where active is not available, then move to passive. So
Yes.
it's a kind of cluster configuration, sir. If it's an active passive.
It is the cluster. We should not say there is a cluster, but internal cluster concepts definitely yes. That is yes. Internal cluster concepts wise, if we just talk it, that is yes. But Route 53 with the active passive mechanism is not the cluster. So you have the two different resources. Suppose vertical scaling on the database side, you cannot launch it like as a EC2 instances like as a horizontal scaling. So RDS, if you're going to use it, they have given vertical scaling feature. That means one will be active, second one also will be there, but that is in the passive. In case active got failed, passive one is going to become that active. But in the cluster, what do we say that all can be active.
Okay.
In the cluster, if I'm launching that core instance, let's assume that.
Even though it is being spelled as active passive, it is working as something like an always on
Yes,
node
high
one.
availability failures handling.
Yeah. But terminology we are using the cluster terminology, but it is being configured as node 1 and node 2 only.
Yes, exactly. Only two resources.
If node 1 is down, we'll move to
yes.
node 2. If node 2 is down, we'll navigate to node 1.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, sir.
That's it. That's it has been explained in the video in the policy. If you refer this video, okay, let me show this video where you can get it. Everyone, are you following the lab guides?
Yes, sir.
not the lab guides. Let me go to the learning path because I would like to show the video, right? Even that lab is also available, which you can refer it. Yeah, Route 53 introduction, that is actually which I planned today one. And yes, this is the video, the reference which I have given. The complete all the policies it has been explained. So almost 2 hours class. So which you can refer it. And the weight-based policy, primary, secondary policies, how do you configure that? Because the primary, secondary, if you're configuring is nothing but primary health, you need to verify it first. If the health is okay, route it to the primary. If the health is down, health is unhealthy of the primary one, then it has to use the secondary option.
More to the secondary.
Yes, on the base of the health.
But anyway, any one node must be in.
Sir, can you paste the link?
Yeah, sure. So here, that is on the dependency on the health checks here. First, you need to configure the health checks. Hosted zone, which is this primary and secondary you are configuring is nothing but health checks. You need to configure it. How to configure these health checks? And after configuring these health checks, these health based we'll use it in the hosted zone routing policies defining that, especially for primary and secondary. Yeah, I'll share this link. So in the chart window itself, let me give it. Even the domain mapping also you can refer it from here. But anyway, let me try to give it tomorrow. I'll take it other options and I need to check it. Even that system, other system, oh no, it is not working, right? So in this network itself, I need to change it. I'll check it. I'll come back. Are you clear on this point?
Yes, sir.
If you say this okay, then we'll wind up for today. And tomorrow I'll show that's Route 53. Records, how do we create it? But record policies, you can differ from here. But records, how to create it, and DNS settings, how do we define it from the GoDaddy mapping to this Route 53? That is one thing I would like to show that. If you have this, any domain in your Route 53, in GoDaddy, and you can launch it about your application, and the next like static application, you can host it in S3, and you can map it with the domain about your profile itself, sharing to the clients. Video profile if you like to create it, or if you have this about your resume, you can prepare about your own one domain. And anyone is asking about your profile, you can share to the link and they can get that all the details of it with resume and everything. But there's some implementation is required, some static application. But yes, if you have that kind of idea, then you can use it directly within the cloud. You can host about your profile itself is the site. The simplified now you don't need to, but just some amount you need to pay that. That is about the domain cost point of view, and S3, the storage whatever you are using. But in the free tier, mostly that's up to 5 GB is available. 1 year you can use it, and you can Route 53 hosted zone if you create it. That record is going to have some monthly like 20, 25 or 40 rupees around that you'll be having, not more than that.
Sir, I checked GoDaddy, it starts from 49 rupees per year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, that is a domain registration. But in the Route 53, you need to map it, right? Hosted zone.
Correct.
That's cost I'm talking, the database point of.
Okay. Okay. These videos are not opening, it's blocked.
First, you
Even
need
I
to
logged
start
in.
the course. You need to start the course.
Okay.
If it's the first time you are accessing, you need to start the course. Okay, thanks all. This tomorrow I'll see this demonstration. And meanwhile, yes, if you are having the time and if you have the interest to go ahead, yes, refer these 2 videos. Thank you all. That's all from my side. We'll meet tomorrow
Thank
and
you.
we'll continue.